Okay, the first one, getting money in their hands. Why is this so important? Here's how I want you to think about this. Okay. I want you to imagine that your son or daughter wanted to learn to play tennis. So you say, sure, I know how to play tennis. Even I do. I was a soccer player in college, but I could still kind of hit a ball. I'm not great though, but I can kind of do it. So let's imagine we take our kids over to the local public courts and we park the car, they get out of the car and you go, okay, go ahead, go play tennis. And now you're going to get from your either middle school or teenager or even elementary school, the eye roll with the exhale. It goes something like this. And you look and you say, what? And they say, Mom, Dad, how am I supposed to learn how to play tennis if I don't have a racket? Ah, you can't learn to play tennis if you don't have a racket. But I would say that you also really can't learn about money. I mean, really learn about it unless you give your kids money in their hands to practice with. Real life practice, not in the laboratory. So here's how the conversation goes. First, in the podcast, I'll talk to you about why it provides opportunities for kids to learn through trial and error. It allows parents to supervise the kids making mistakes while they're under their own roof. And it builds trust and communication with the parents, which I'm going to come back to at the end, because I think that part is really important. So step one, stay big picture. Don't get into the weeds. Here are some of the questions that you might ask at that first dinner. You might ask, what are some ways that adults get money to spend on the things that they need or want, right? If that question doesn't go over where they give a lot of answers, you could say, well, what are the jobs that people might have? And you let them talk for a little bit. It's just really getting the conversation going and getting them talking. And here's then where you pivot to. You say, how do each of these jobs differ in income? And what does that mean to their long-term lifestyles? Here's why. And I do get pushback on that one, but here's why I think you want to talk to them about it. Because while it's amazing to talk to them about following their passion, sometimes their passions are not going to lead to an income that will allow them to live their life the way that you brought them up. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I think it's let's go into this eyes wide open, that if you decide you want to go to some very low paying profession, that's awesome if that's your passion. But realize that there are certain things that you give up, just like everything in life, to do that. You could say the other way, you might want to live a better lifestyle, or they may want to live a better lifestyle than they lived when they were growing up in your house. There might be consequences to that in terms of working long hours or not seeing their family. Everything has trade-offs. And I think here's the place where you start to have that conversation. And I think what you'll find is they'll have an aha moment on a lot of things. So then you go to step two. And this question is really fun. You ask them, if you had a friend that said, I wish I had money to spend, and you were coaching them, what ways would you suggest they could get more money? Now, this is you asking your child how they would coach their friends. And you would be amazed the answers that your kids give. And it's very free flowing for them to answer it because it's not on them, it's for their friends. And that's where we get to step three. And step three is, now that you've talked about advice you would give to your friend, how do you think it's best for you to start making a little money? And they'll probably give the similar answers that they did in step two, but you've kind of, what did they call it? Softening the beachfront, as they say, to like say, okay, great. You're now going to start making your own money, which we all know as parents is probably good habit for them to get into, but they've done it in the context of consulting and coaching one of their friends. Okay. So you're now ending the conversation, and on those podcasts and in the study guide are the ending of the conversation. So I give you the beginning, like for me, I like to use the tennis analogy, but then you need to wrap it in a nice bow. So I'll give you an example of how you might want to do it, even though you might have a way that works better for you. So what I would say is something like, it's great that we had this conversation. What we're going to do is we're going to start talking to you about needs versus wants. And we're going to, let's say, give you an allowance, and that allowance might be for chores, or it might not be for chores, or encourage them to get a job, whether it's babysitting, mowing the lawn, or whether it's working at the local restaurant, bussing tables, scooping ice cream somewhere, maybe even creating an app so they can help both themselves and you retire. Who knows? But you tell them then, okay, great. So I'm going to start to get money in your hands for things that we would normally pay for. And now you're going to start paying for it. But then there are going to be things that you want, and those are going to be on you. That if you really want something, you'll go and make the money to get those things. I realize that a 6-year-old, we're having a different conversation than a 16-year-old. I totally understand that. But you're smart enough as a parent to know where to draw the line, how to set this up in a way that works best, not only for your family unit, but for your individual child. Okay, and that's it. So you read for 10 minutes, you listened to the podcast for 10 minutes, you talked for 15 or 20 minutes at dinner, and now I want you to stop. Don't talk about money anymore for another 4 weeks until you have the next topic, because that way it allows the kids to go back and be curious. What I'm finding is kids are now searching for the topics that we're talking about because they want to learn more. And if it's on TikTok, for example, and let's say it's about compound interest, they may plug in compound interest and now start to get a lot of TikToks on compound interest. So that's how it works.